welcome back to another episode of the Underrated and Overlooked podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Najee Wilkins, along with Craig Sager Jr. Man, excited to talk football with you. But first and foremost, how you feeling today, Craig?
Feeling good, and we're going to talk the combine. I think more so this year than ever. This proves these college kids are putting in work.
No doubt about it. I mean, so many great prospects. We're going to have the full intel on that and give some of our top standouts in players. So stay tuned for that. But we're going to start on the high school side. I think we should react to some of the biggest news from yesterday and this weekend. Cedar Grove head coach John Adams officially steps down as the head coach. Won two championships with the program in those 3 seasons. Also the defensive coordinator before becoming head coach. What's your reaction to that?
This is a big coaching move. We've seen a lot of action going on with these in-state colleges, high school coaches going up, taking opportunities. I think the key for Cedar Grove, though, Coach Adams is a DeKalb County product. He played for Buck Godfrey, DeKalb County's all-time winningest coach. He's familiar with the area. He knows how DeKalb runs things. I just think they have to find someone that has played in DeKalb, coached in DeKalb. They've got to stay in-house because they are the flagship program of DeKalb County.
No doubt about it. They definitely are. And it's going to be interesting to see who they pick. And I want to get your thoughts, too. Do you think that takes a little bit of the allure away from that top matchup we're going to see played Saturday night between them and Douglas County, with him no longer being the coach? And also, we know E.J. Colson early enrolling into UCF. Does that take a little muster off of the matchup, or you think it's about the same still?
I think it makes it more interesting, but I definitely do think it's a loss for Cedar Grove just from their standpoint. He's a heck of a coach. Not many guys can come in and basically win 2 championships, 2.5 maybe.
Really 3.
Yeah. But it makes it more interesting for obvious reasons. Cedar Grove's not a team that wants to win the state title week 1. However, they've got to come out and really represent, and they do have a lot of returning starters, but I mean, they thought they'd have E.J. Colson back next year. He reclassified. Now they have a new head coach. It would be very interesting, but I do expect them to move quickly, get this new position settled, and I don't think Coach Adams is the type of guy that's going to leave it in disarray. I'm sure he's been working to make sure that Cedar Grove program stays strong.
No doubt about it. And actually said he's expected to be the top defensive assistant coach for Georgia State. He officially got hired, supported by Matt Zenitz of College Football Reporter. So I think they're getting a great guy. I think it's just kind of that part where you get a lot of success, Craig, and you just kind of think, okay, well, maybe I want to try something new. I want to go on the next level. And I think that's what it was with Coach Adams. Obviously, he's phenomenal, but I think he wanted probably a little bit more of a challenge.
I agree with that, and I also think Georgia State is making massive moves.
Yes.
They are all in. This new coaching staff, I think they've really got just fresh leadership at the school. This is that window of opportunity at the college level where all these pieces are changing. You do not want to fall behind, and I think they're making moves to get ahead of it and bringing in Coach Adams. That is massive. He's still very young. He's gotten it done on Georgia's biggest stage already. I think he's going to go in, make an incredible impact at Georgia State, and who knows, he might be just in the middle of his climb up the coaching ladder.
No doubt about it. We might even see him as a head coach for a college program one day.
Yep, and no doubt about it, Cedar Grove had more NFL prospects than any other school in the state these last few years.
So they know what they're doing, but we'll leave that there. We'll move on to some other topics in the high school realm. Elijah Griffin officially announced his top 12 schools. We will show you guys the official graphic. Craig, I want to get your thoughts on it. He's being right now kind of predicted to go to Georgia, but I want you to see these top 12 schools, that the audience see it too, and just kind of react. But give me one sec, guys. All right, so here we go, Craig. Top 12 was announced March 3rd. So we got Georgia, Colorado, Louisville, Miami, Florida, Clemson, LSU, South Carolina, USC, Oregon, Duke, Alabama. What is your instant reaction, Craig?
I just think he's so exciting because he's a guy that at the defensive line position not only can make an impact on every single play, but like he really does force the offense. Like you have to account for him. He can eat up a double team if he wants to. He can set the edge. He's situationally aware of the down and distance. He has all the right moves. He's a multi-year starter. I think he's going to be so college ready. And he's an invaluable piece that's going to be able to come in freshman year, make an immediate impact. 100%.
No doubt about it. 100% agree. If you had to say from just looking at these colleges, which one you think fits him the most or could potentially be a great landing spot for him that he can come in? I think anywhere, like you say, he'll contribute, but could be just a great landing spot for his career overall.
I think Georgia is going to go really hard for him, but the two others, I think it's Alabama and then LSU.
Mm,
LSU is that's the type of fit where if they really want to build an exciting defense, build a state championship front,
mm.
he's the guy that's going to be able to get it done.
And then what about Bama? You said Bama too.
Yeah, I think Bama just because they have such a track record of great defensive line talent, but I think LSU was probably my sleeper. I think he'd be a big fit for there.
No doubt about it. And then I agree with you too, Craig. I think if Georgia lands him, I think it's top tier. And the reason I do is because we've been talking about, okay, who's going to fill that void for them, from the past 2 seasons with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, right? We talked about how good Justice Terry was last week, him being a top prospect, obviously here in the country and in the state. But I think if you can keep his recruitment with Georgia and then you add Elijah Griffin, I mean that tandem right there for years to come for the Georgia Bulldogs. I mean that's going to be something to watch.
Yeah, that's a great point because, he can make an impact by himself, but you pair him with the right guy, and that is, there's
Talk
very
about top tier.
complimentary success. But maybe we should not count out Clemson and South Carolina. Savannah is right on that border,
True.
and that's not a short drive, so they're probably going in very heavy. But I do think, him going to LSU, I think that'd be very exciting. They kind of need a big-time player like that can be an All-American,
It's been
all SEC.
And to your point, it's been a while since LSU has had that type of prospect in the trenches, right?
100%. I could really see that happening.
No doubt about it, man.
Yeah, that'd be a smart choice, Elijah.
No doubt. Well, guys, that's our opinion on that. That was revealed a couple days ago, so that is our reaction to it fully. We got one more official visit set for this offensive lineman, and I know you've been pretty high on this program as a whole, Craig. So let's go ahead and react to this as well. Per Chad Simmons of On3 Sports, he has officially set his visits. All right, so Josh Petty, elite offensive tackle, tells On3 recruits locked in any spring visits. Clemson, March 12th. Georgia Tech, March 15th. Georgia, March 16th. Auburn, March 19th. And then FSU, Florida State, March 29th. What's your instant reaction, Craig?
All right, so this is going to be a very interesting month for him. So what stands out, Georgia Tech. Why? Well, his former coach, Tim McFarland, is now at Georgia Tech. He coached him when he was a freshman, when he was blowing up. So that Coach McFarland has always been talking about this guy, has him on the radar. He'll feel right at home once he's up there. But what's so impressive about Josh Petty, one, you watch his dominance on the field, but he's also a guy who's going to win a state title in wrestling. He's going to get it done in track and field. He's just a well-rounded athlete. It's not just the physical size, but Georgia Tech's interesting. I think that'd be invaluable. When you look at Coach Key and what his success is coaching offensive linemen, I think that'd be a good fit.
Yeah, Craig got me on that one. I didn't even expect. I didn't even know McFarland used to be their head coach. Guys, I'm still kind of fresh with coming into the high school market, but yeah, that's big. Relationships are everything. So that's obviously going to be something to watch. I know he's high on them as well. And he's the type of guy a lot of people want. I would throw Clemson in there too. I know they're high on his strikes. I know they're trying to get David Sanders as well. Would he put number 2 tackle in the nation?
Yeah, a state champion wrestler. That is, we see defensive guys that have that ability. And by the way, he does go in there every once in a while, play some defense. We've seen some other big name guys do that. But yeah, he's just so good. He can play. He can be that interior lineman if you want. He can be outside. But what a move that'd be for Georgia Tech if they can land him. He's good enough to play anywhere, but I really think that'd be a smart decision.
Interesting. So staying home for him, you think?
Yes.
Well, there's Craig's take on it. I think obviously it'd be great for Georgia Tech as well. And he's the reason why the fellowship Christian's been so good, right? You see those numbers for CJ Givers, who we've been high on for a long time, went off in the Corky Kell last year. Is the reason why they're so special. But him kind of anchoring your offensive line, like Craig said, anywhere he goes, he's going to have an impact. But top schools, this is where he's going to go visit. So we'll see what services he'll be able to go to and who will eventually land him.
Yep. And so last year, Daniel Calhoun took all the headlines as the big offensive lineman because he transferred. He was a huge piece. And what stood out to me is like he played with great effort every single snap. Josh, he is more, he just is such like a technical, fundamental lineman, but he also has that motor. I think if he can just come out this season, be a little more dominant, impose his will, that isn't something he has to do, but that's going to help him at the next level when the guys are just a little bit bigger. This is the year to get a little bit nastier.
Don't disagree with you, Craig. That's how you impose your will. That's how you impose the dominance. I remember too, real quick, and we'll move to our next topic. Like you said, back to Calhoun. I just remember coming into the season, everybody was like, "Yo, he's massive, like 6'7", 300 plus," and then everybody like he was going to like camps. Craig, he was going to like these games, and then every time you seen him, he was just like all over social media with just how physically imposing and towering he was.
Yep, I think Josh Petty's going to be that guy, and it's funny because even though Daniel Calhoun played at Centennial before that, people thought, oh, well, this is 7A, this is different. I feel like that same sort of thing might surround Josh Petty. Oh, he's at a two-way school. It doesn't matter. He is the real deal.
No doubt about it. Well, guys, that's our thoughts on that. Those are his visits officially, like I said, reported by On Three's Chad Simmons. That's our reaction. And I think we got one more big topic on the high school realms. Another signing day. I really wanted to bring this up. I teased it, if you guys don't remember, on last Thursday. So I hope you guys are ready for our official reaction to this. But per ESPN reporters Pete Thamel, he said the final Wednesday of June is when the next signing day will be if they eventually pass it. And then the Wednesday after the regular season finale, right before the conference championships, will be the other one. And then the first Wednesday in February. And another interesting note on that too, Craig, it's going to actually extend all the way till April 1st. So let's say February 1st is the signing date. You will still have that period free all the way up for another 2 months before it officially closes on April 1st. And the next class comes in that June. So expected to be about 3 to 7 days on all of the dates basically for the signing days. But what is your reaction?
Well, you've been doing a great job covering recruiting, and it's always like, man, this really feels like it's year round and starting to become that way. I think it's a great counter to the transfer portal, all this other stuff. Now kids have 3 options, maybe even more with the extensions, but it's moved very quickly. I brought it up last night. The last time we only had the one signing day was 2016. And so the last big time superstar that only had that one day to sign and make his decision, that was Derek Brown from Lanier. He was the best player in the country, 5-star, went to Auburn, made his first Pro Bowl this season. But just think about that. He only had one day. Now you have the early signing day. You can have an easier opportunity to get in there and roll early. That's happened. And now this third window, I think it is very huge. It's going to help the high school kids, I think, battle some of the uncertainty and hesitation some of the colleges have locking it down just with all the movement.
Yeah, I love it too, Craig. I mean, 100% agree. It's going to lock it down, and then they're going to be able to call out the college's bluff. Like, is this a for real offer or not, or is it just I need to show you more? So that's what's so cool about that, and you're going to see, that period. And it's like you said, it's really going to help the college, the high school players and their parents and their families as well. So they're going to be able to kind of know if this is for real or not. And I think what I like about it too, Craig, is it gives everybody a potential chance at the signing day, right? So everybody's like, oh, well, it's 3 of them. It's going to take away the potency. To me, I don't think it does. Right in June, Craig, like I told you off air, what's going on in June for real? The NBA Finals is over with pretty much for the most part. I think it is the first Wednesday in June. Let me make sure. No, final Wednesday in June. Excuse me. So NBA Finals is over. All in that period you really have is baseball. There's there's training camps and stuff like that, but there's no big time sports that are going on really professionally or even in college, during that period. Pretty much everybody's gearing up for the next season, essentially. So I think it gives more kind of buzz around it, Craig. I think it gives more kind of time for families to prepare what they're going to do. If they're going to do, they're going to announce it live on a network. If they're going to announce it on, 247 or on 3 or rivals or something like that if they're going to do anything for it. And I think too, it allows the players to kind of put it away, right?
Yep.
So once you do those summer visits, right, you can go ahead. Oh, okay, this is my school. I've signed it. Boom, boom, boom. I'm good to go. Now, obviously, they're going to probably have to let some players who want to get out of their national letter of intent too. They're going to have to open that up as well because some players are probably going to back away. Unfortunately, that's the name of the game. But I think it allows them to kind of put it away. This is my school. I've signed. Boom, I'm going here in December. I can focus on my senior year. Then recruiting's done.
Yes. And so it's going to be for the guys that have really made up their mind. They're all in and they want to get it out of the way. The only situations I feel like where that might happen where guys are wanting to pull out is what we saw this year. Coaches leaving, Harbaugh, Saban. But other than that, it allows them to build the class just without waiting to the last minute. And then just think about when there was only one and these guys decommit like on signing day. It's like, oh man, we just lost 2 cornerbacks, and then you're scrambling around. Then that just has a trickle effect across the board. So I think it's going to make it a little more. Yeah, I think the relationship between the college coaches and the high school kids will improve through this. The communication's already steady throughout the year, but I think having the ability to build the class early with guys that are already proven and established, and maybe go out and find some other guys that are still in their top 12s or top 6s. I think that will help them out a lot.
And then real quick for a transition, Craig, what are your thoughts on the one in December? They're going to have it right before conference championships, still allowing the kids in that first kind of window in December to go ahead and commit. So what's your thoughts on that one? And then bringing up instead of the 20th, where all the actions going on.
I think that one is vital too, because it happens right after the season. So, I mean, a kid has a breakout senior season, or a lot of high school kids transfer now, and maybe they don't get their opportunity till later, or they're a first-year starter at quarterback that's been waiting his turn. It's like you need that December one because it's right after the season. And so you basically have 3 now. You have summer, you have the winter at the end of that semester, and then February is pretty much the de facto like spring, late winter. So I think it covers all of them. You wouldn't need a 4th.
No.
So I think this is a good move.
No doubt about it. Well, guys, that's our reaction. I thought you could.
Which one do you think is going to be the biggest deal, though? I think it's still December, because the middle one feels like that's when.
Yeah, I think that's when you're going to, especially like you said, back to your point when you talked about kind of the players having a big season, being able to go, and then some of those colleges trying to fill in those last couple of spots. So I think December is going to have a lot. I think June is going to have the most buzz, though.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think it's going to have the most buzz, but I think the best one for probably the players would be December. But I think June is going to have the most buzz, especially for like the primetime athletes. But December is going to be a critical one for players. Big time season, impress colleges. Oh, this is my tape. This is what I did this year. Boom. Okay, let's bring you on. Let's sign you. You know.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of guys take advantage of that early signing day in past seasons. Peyton Straco, Joe Wilkinson, guys that blew up in 1 year. Oscar Delp with Georgia. But having 2 periods and now 3, if it gets approved, it's such a big difference, because before it's like, all right, we have this early one. All right, these teams did better than us. They jumped on the early. Now we're going to wait till this one. But now you have 3 different time periods, 3 different strategies of, okay, these are the guys we've been in contact with since their sophomore season, junior. Let's lock them down. Let's get some other guys aggressively. And then if it didn't work out, you still have that 3rd opportunity.
No doubt about it. I love it. I think it's going to be cool. But before we move on to our second segment, Craig, was there any major coaching news that you've seen, or any major news on the high school before we move on?
Well, we talked about Cedar Grove, and Hayden brought up the Stockbridge news. So that's massive.
Yeah.
It's a team that opened up its season last year with Colquitt. Douglas County didn't lose again until the state championship, beat Benedictine in the semifinals. So it's a big opening, and I know that'll be the first coaching change in a long time. It's Coach Whitley before that. But I mean, Stockbridge with them, they have incredible athletes. They've probably been, I would put them, maybe Newton, as some of the most talented teams that haven't won a state title, and they broke Milton's record, I think, this year with the longest time it took before they made their first state championship. I think it was something like 63 years. So it's going to be tough for them to lose a head coach after making it that far. But I think just coming up one game short, those kids are going to be motivated and they won't miss a beat.
No doubt. So those are the biggest openings right now. Stockbridge no longer has their head coach. He's moving on to the Jackson, got a Jackson job. So that's going to be intriguing as well. And then Cedar Grove is the next big one too. Big time program, known for its excellence in DeKalb County, one of the top line programs in the state. So those are the two biggest openings right now, guys. It'd be interesting to see what kind of happens with that.
Yep. And I think we're there. Another one that opened up this week. One sec.
Yep.
So they had what we didn't bring up last week. Yeah, Camden County got Travis Rowland, huge. We kind of predicted an out-of-state state championship coach coming in.
Yep.
That's massive. That team, I think Camden's going to be top 10 heading into next year. If not, it didn't work against them last year. They were the only team that was not ranked at any point that made it all the way to the semifinals. So that will definitely be a dangerous team. Let's see.
Very talented as well.
Coaching vacancies. Still got the Spalding one. Heritage Conyers. McDonough's still open. South Cobb, Stars Mill, Twiggs County, Wayne County, and Westlake. When did Westlake open up?
Oh, yeah, Rico Zachary. Yep, I did see that.
All right. That's interesting. When did that one break?
That might have been, if it was not last week, it was probably the week before, I think. It was recent, though. It's probably like a week and some change.
Okay, so I'm going to have to get on that one. Yeah, Westlake, that's a huge one.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's a team that goes back to your point with Stockbridge and Newton, just very, very talented. Just, a whole bunch of studs on their program, D1 prospects, just sometimes not able to kind of get over the hump. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who they get because the talent is brewing there at Westlake, and they want to make a deep run this year and make it to, obviously to the state championship. So it's going to be intriguing to see who's going to be hired for that job.
Yep. Well, we will have updates next week for sure.
No doubt about it. Well, guys, we're going to leave that there. Move to our next segment, the college world. Georgia Tech officially hires their new wide receiver coach, lost Josh Crawford, who went on to Georgia to be the running backs coach. But they officially hired Trick McKnight, who comes over from Georgia State, offensive coordinator for the program for 2 years. He was also formerly their wide receiver coach from 2017 to 2021. And has a pretty good pedigree. He coached 9 receivers that earned all Sun Belt honors. And the Panthers ranked top 10 in yards per completion in 2022, completion percentage in 2023. And then they also had several really, really good prospects to come there. Penny Hart, who was a 5-time NFL veteran, and then now Jamari Thrash, who's expected to be selected in the NFL draft. So I think this is a pretty good hire for Georgia Tech. And I think he'll be able to come in, and obviously the talent's going to be there. Isaiah Kenyon coming in the 2024 class. Then obviously you got Eric Singleton, Jr., who's really, really good. We got Malik Rutherford. So they're going to have definitely the players in the arsenal to do that. I can't wait to see how that position looks this year after a really great year last year in production.
Yes, I think you could hire from two different directions. Let's say you could bring in a receiver coach from the NFL. He's worked with the best of the best. I think in this case, he's proven that he's exceptional at recruiting and then developing. And now I think he is going to have a slightly more talented group of receivers at Georgia Tech. They were the real deal last year, and they've got even more coming in. And I'm excited because I think, more talent at his disposal. He's going to be able to develop them, and Georgia Tech just has it going on.
No doubt about it. I think he really got put into a good spot, and I think he's only going to really, really do well with it. And him being such a great receiver coach at Georgia State led to him being an OC. So, some might say it's a lot of remove, but I think if he can have really ultimate success with this group, it could land him a head coaching job potentially as well in the future. So I think it's a great move for him, and I think Georgia Tech knocked it out with this hire.
Yep, and then a couple interesting things. You remember having Georgia military coach on our shows a couple times, just how impressive that entire operation is. But McKnight coached there a year before he went into college. So, I mean, this guy has real Georgia credentials. And I think that's another helpful thing. What's Georgia Tech's goal? I mean, they're in the hotbed of football talent, and they're bringing in whether it's the high school development guys, Coach Stewart, Coach McFarland.
Yep.
Now you have a guy that is familiar with Georgia. He's coming right across from Atlanta. Got it done at Georgia State.
Yep.
Had their big hire last week with the running back coach. I mean, this coaching staff is really impressive, and I think they're all sort of familiar with each other. I think with that Georgia Tech coaching staff, I'm sure they get along great. There's a real bond and shared vision behind them, and it's just a great opportunity for them to really prove something this year. I think last year was a mission accomplished, had some big wins, got fans back in the stands, had the televised matchups, moved the Georgia matchup to prime time. I think this year is just about taking that next step, and I'm confident they're going to be able to do it.
No doubt about it. And I throw back to your point really quick. And if you go talk to any high school recruit that's being recruited by Georgia Tech, the game you want to know the game to keep bringing up, Craig?
Miami?
North Carolina.
Oh, North Carolina.
The upset at home. Each one I've talked to have said, yo, like that one, I went to that game. It stands out to me. Like, I've never been in an environment like that before with just, people storming the field, crowd going crazy, primetime game, ACC network. Like, so, I mean, that's how you do it. And that's how you start, Craig, getting that top talent coming in. Obviously, it has to translate. You have to develop them. But to bring that top talent in, you have to have games like that, right? Upsetting a big-time opponent and then letting your recruits see and they're like, oh, okay, this program's on the rise. This program has it going on. I might consider them for my recruitment on the next level.
Exactly. And I think the kids kind of feel that. Like before, it's like, oh, you're going to Georgia Tech to play? That's awesome. Now it's, oh, you're going to Georgia Tech to play? It's like, yeah, wait for it. Wait for it. And the players have that embedded in their mind. They know that they're on the rise, and
no doubt.
It's just like wait and see.
Exactly. Can't wait, man. It's going to be fun. But I know you got a hot take on this, Craig. I want to actually share the screen on this. I got the article pulled up, but we have not did the 12-team playoff yet, but we're already talking about a 14-team, playoff. I think this is really intriguing. I want to get your instant reaction to it too, Craig. We're going to pull it up on here. Okay. So, via ESPN, I want you guys to see this. Okay, so here is the article. But college football playoff has unveiled its first 12-team field yet, but discussions on the 14-team competition beginning in 2026 are already raising eyebrows among Big 12 and ACC coaches. Obviously, in the 12-team playoff structure that we've talked about, 5 highest-ranked conference champions are guaranteed the top spot in the bracket, and the 4 highest-ranked conference winners will earn a first-round bye. But sources told ESPN that one 14-team model that is being considered includes provisions for SEC and Big Ten to get 3 automatic qualifiers each and the only 2 byes for the conference champions. What is your reaction to that? That is crazy.
I really don't like that.
Me neither.
And I'm seeing the TCU quote there, and that's so funny. It says an automatic first-round byes for the Big Ten and SEC. Yeah, so just automatic. And he's exactly right. Why? Because of the performance? No, because you guys have bigger fan bases.
Yeah.
And if they do this, I mean, college football fans have put up with, I'm not feeling sorry for them, but I'm saying they've put up with a lot of questionable decisions.
They have.
With the college football playoffs and what team gets in, what team doesn't. And I think if you just automatically guarantee, oh, we're going to have 3 teams get in and then also the top one gets a bye, that's way, way too much.
Yeah. I don't love it either, Craig, because when you look at it, you're saying basically, okay, so no matter what SEC does, we're taking 3 of their teams, taking 3 of the Big Ten teams, and then we're also going to take probably 2 ACC and probably 2 Big 12, right? That's only 6 spots other teams can get in. At least with this playoff we have, okay, top 5 go, and then we're filling in the other 7 spots. Like, you're giving them less opportunity for other schools, in the power 4 structure. I would say you could say now, in the group 5 or group 4, you would say now, that are going to have to work even harder to get in. So obviously we know, like you said, Craig, they have the big fan bases, they make the most money. We know this, yada yada. It's all about revenue, but at the same time, you want to make it fair, though. I mean, I don't think that is fair at all. And then you get a double bye, basically, because, if you're a top team, you're going to miss the first basically 2 weeks. I don't love it.
Yeah, and I'm not opposed to 3 SEC teams getting in, but I just think having an automatic 3, that's just gonna really upset people.
Yeah. Now, if they earn it and 3 teams are viable, or 4 or 5, whatever, they earned it. But like you said, automatically without the season even being played, that seems kind of
that's crazy because I mean, we've seen it where 3 teams would have gotten in. We've also seen seasons in the SEC where it's top heavy. There's 2 good teams and the rest have struggled. But the automatic part's crazy. I think with the automatic giving them the right to the bye, I think the top 2 ranked teams should get the bye.
100% agree.
And top especially, look at last year, Michigan won it. It wasn't even an SEC school that did. I think Ohio State's going to have something to say.
Yep.
ACC had a much better year last year.
Yes, they did.
And I just think with all this new stuff going on, all these coaching changes, the SEC is still where it's at, Big 12, Big 10, but there's going to be some other programs to account for. I just don't think you can just give it to those 2.
No, I don't think it's fair.
Advantage.
Yes, and as I said, it's not up to the coaches. Basically, it's up to the commissioners, ultimately the team presidents and chancellors on the CFF board. They are going to be making this decision at the end of the day. So I don't love it. I think we should, obviously play out the 12 team before we start discussing a 14 team. But I think the 12 team works. I think that's a real good number. Obviously, I know they're trying to expand. I've heard some even say 16, maybe 18. But I think the 12 is a good fit. Top 4 get a bye. 5 has to play. And I like the structure, of it so far, compared to making it bigger and giving somebody automatic bids. Like, go earn it. I love that part of it. And if 4 SEC teams get in this year, and they had a better season and they have a good strength of schedule and they've beaten the top teams, then so be it. But at least it was earned, not given.
Yeah, and so that proposal's for 2026. But as you said, it's like we haven't even seen the playoff yet. It's the 12-game playoff. Let's see that first. See how that works out. I mean, it is going to change a lot, but that is a interesting proposal. But the thing that we've seen, a lot of people think we live in a simulation, but a lot of times they say these things. They say, "Oh, what do you think about this?" And they say it's not going to happen, and then a year later,
it happens.
It happens. So they wouldn't be talking about this if it wasn't a serious consideration.
Yeah. So we will see. We'll obviously keep you updated on anything that happens with it. We'll have the live reaction and the news on it. So stay here if you want to get that reaction to it. But that's our thoughts. We don't love it. Hopefully, we can play the 12 team first and then see what happens after.
Yeah, and even if it's what's best, I think that is kind of college football letting the cat out of the bag. They're basically saying, these conferences are better than everyone else.
pretty much. That's pretty much what they're saying. Yeah, that is pretty blatant. I didn't even think about that, Craig. Yeah, basically saying SEC, Big 10 are the top tier, and then the rest, whatever. You figure it out. Yeah, I don't love that.
Openly saying it.
Yeah, do not love that at all. But we will keep you locked. We'll see if any updates or changes. But one big change for Georgia, Craig. I want to get your reaction. They're losing their offensive lineman, Chad Lindbergh. I know he was a reserve offensive tackle for Georgia for a while. So 4-star prospect coming out of high school, chose Georgia between Ohio State and Notre Dame. But he was a big part of their team this year. That was one of the top units in the SEC and even in the country. Played in 12 games this past year, so got a little bit of more playing time. But he will be a grad transfer going on to his next unit, looking to get his MBA degree, his master's. But I thought that was interesting. And also comes with Georgia having their spring practice only a week from now. March 12th is when it begins. And as you know, the spring games will begin in April, Craig. And the spring transfer window I want to bring up as well. April 15th through the 13th, only a 15-day window in the spring.
Yeah, well, I think he's going to be a valuable pickup, and got to give hats off to that guy. He's already graduated. He's gone through the program, but he's still projected to be a potential like 5th-round draft pick just through his size alone. So if that's where he wants to go, if he wants to have a professional career, I think he's looking at the depth chart. He's looking at some of these new pieces coming into Georgia, and he's saying, I have value. I have played at Georgia's last few years. I can go to somewhere else, start, prove myself, uh, get his master's or whatever it is, and then if that doesn't work out, maybe have an opportunity. So I think it's a good decision for him. It is late, have to come fast, but he wouldn't have left a program like Georgia, I don't think, if he didn't really weigh the options. Seems like a smart guy.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I love it because he spent his 4 years there, got his degree, got to play a little bit in his last season with the Georgia Bulldogs. And like you said, probably went in and looked, okay, well, we got this guy in. We're bringing in this big freshman, this 6'7" guy. This guy's going to probably try to, get some minutes next year. And he probably just looked and evaluated like, okay, well, looking at this, what's going to be best for my future in my career? Potentially, like you said, playing professionally, Craig. And he probably evaluated it, thought about it, and it was like, okay, maybe I can go here. I can start, and then I can, get more projected on draft boards higher. And then if I have a stellar one season, we've seen it all the time, Craig. You have that one season, whether it's on the prep career or high school or collegiately, it takes 1 year, man. You have one big season, and you end up being projected very high. So that's all you have to do: pick the right school, and then he'll be able to go up higher, like you said, on those draft boards.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, Georgia last year, they probably had one of the best offensive lines they've had in a long time. So it's a guy that he wasn't a backup because he's hurt. It was just they had an incredible talent. He's been waiting his turn. So he's from Texas. He's had a lot of schools looking at him over the years. I think he understands the game and has proved like he can start for sure. 6'6", 325, and all those years under his belt. I think he's definitely going to get that opportunity.
No doubt.
Definitely someone to follow.
No doubt about it. So that's going to be intriguing to see, and we will follow his journey and let you guys know if we see any big updates on that. But before we move on to our final segment, NFL, was there any other big news you've seen, Craig, as far as college goes, that you wanted to hit on?
Just want to re-emphasize that Georgia State's making some great moves.
Thank you, Max. What were you saying, Craig? I'm sorry.
I just really like what Georgia State's been up to. But I just want to re-emphasize that. I think they've got a special group of coaches, vision, and I think they're going to be making some serious noise. They're going to have an exciting brand. They're going to hit it on recruiting. And, yeah.
Before we move on, Craig, obviously we'll do like season projections when it comes around in September. But where do you see, obviously they got to keep recruiting and stuff like that, but where do you see Georgia State potentially landing next year as far as in the win bracket? They were a bowl team this year. I believe they went 7-6, went bowling. New head coach in Dale McGee. We see what the input he's been having on the program. What do you see them at kind of next year fitting in the fold in the Sun Belt?
I think they will have a point of the season where they're on pace for 10 wins. May not get it, they may not, but I think they have that opportunity. And that's the big threshold. I mean, you rack up that many wins in a season, you are, and I think it's also just like statistically, where's your defense ranking nationally? Where's that offense ranking? I think just improving both sides of the ball, taking that next step, Georgia State can be a real powerhouse.
We're going to find out. So that is what Craig has them on pace for 10 wins. We'll break it down more as the season progresses and comes up. But that is our thoughts on that, and we'll keep you updated. We're going to move on to our last segment of the show, NFL Combine and the NFL itself. So we got some major Georgia high schoolers here, how they fare at the NFL Combine. So appreciate Max for showing us this. But a couple guys that performed really, really well. Javon Baker of UCF, he got a 40-yard dash of 4.54, 10-yard split at 1.58 seconds, 37-inch vertical jump, 10-to-1 broad jump as well. And then it looks like Jaheim Bell of Florida State, Valdosta, had a 4.61 40-yard dash, a 1.58 10-yard split, 35-inch vertical jump, 10.4 broad jump. I know we have more on there. What are your thoughts in reaction to that, Craig?
Well, Javon Baker's just a baller. It's not the fastest 40 time, but I think showing up, and if you're a receiver, the number one thing you don't want to do is hurt yourself. You don't want to run a 4.6 or something that is going to lower your draft stock. So as long as you're in that 4.5 range, you avoided a disaster. Let's just put it that way. Because, I mean, all the combine can really do is it can hurt you, or it can, if you have some spectacular performance that just sets you apart, it can really help you. But I think it's more prone, like if you show up and run a bad time, it is going to do.
No doubt about it. And I'll throw it to you. Any other Georgia guys you wanted to hit on, Craig, that from their performances?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch, but so with the combo, I do not think it is the most important thing. And see, I'm not coming at it from a position where it's like I couldn't put up good combine numbers and that's what hurt me. No, I was the opposite. I had great combine numbers, but I wasn't good at football. So like 4.42,
Right.
24 on the bench press, 39 vertical, but there is more to it. So that's why I think it's important. Just show that you can hit those average numbers. I think all the Georgia guys did it. Ladd did it, clocking up like 4.41. That's huge for him.
Yep.
Because that's not his strength anyway. It's like look at a guy like Kyrie Irving. He's not the best 3-point shooter. He's not the quickest, but he can still do things that other guys can with his handles. I feel like Ladd's like that too. He's not the fastest. He's not the strongest, but he has a great ability to disguise his routes and has great hands. So I think like just looking for who's the fastest guy, who's the biggest, there is more to it. But I do think just getting the job done and not having a bad time, that's really the key.
No doubt about it. 100% agree with that. I think it's a pretty cool sight to see. Obviously, it doesn't determine how good you're going to be. We've seen guys have great 40 times, great job at the combine, and did not pan out as well. But I think it is a good metric to kind of see a player. And some that stood out to me from the combine, I got to go with the edge from Alabama, Dallas Turner. What he was able to do was very, very special. A 4.46 40-yard dash, a 40-inch vertical, tied second in the broad jump. Just being able to move that fast at an edge with that size, I think says a lot. I think a lot of teams are going to be salivating over him. Would not be surprised if he's taken in the top 10 easily, in my opinion. Probably maybe even top 5, you could argue. We'll see how it pans out. A lot of these teams are going to go wide receiver, quarterback. We'll see how it all pans out. But I think he should easily be top 10 player. And whoever gets him, I think he's going to have a kind of that instant impact. And the next one for me is one Max put me on with, and I went back and studied what he was able to do, and it was very impressive. And that's Peyton Wilson, linebacker, 4.43 40-yard dash. What was really impressive was what he was able to do on the on-field drills. Definitely has a lot of fluidity in his movement. But him running at that speed at the linebacker spot, I think, says a lot. And what he was able to do was very special.
Yeah, we talk about edges and cornerbacks and receivers, but the linebackers have been blazing with their times. We're seeing 4.3s, 4.4s. I think this might be the fastest linebacker class we've seen in a while. You mentioned Amarius Mims. That is definitely impressive. And not just the 40 time, but the shuttle drill. It shows his quickness. He's explosive, 340 pounds. That's wild. But I think my biggest standout, Joe Alt from Notre Dame, 6'8", 320, and he runs I think it was official, a 5.07. People don't understand, one, how impressive that is. Two, it's like you just watch him run that and see what he's able to do once he picks up steam. You just imagine him on a screenplay, and it's like you have no chance.
No, you don't. Not at all. I mean, that is really impressive. And speaking of that, another one that stood out to me was Troy Fontenot. I think who was very well. Craig ran a 5.01, similar to the guy you said, in the 40-yard dash, 32-inch vertical, 9'3" broad jump. He was really impressive. And Chop Robinson was another impressive one for me. He didn't generate a lot of sacks when he was at the school he was at, Penn State, but ran an impressive 40-yard dash too. Craig, 4.48, 1.54 split, and a 4.25 shuttle. And then the last two for me, Nate Wiggins of Clemson.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
what he was doing, I think, was off the charts. That 4.29 40, those elite athletic traits he has. There's a lot of teams out here, Craig, that really need us a corner. Philly's one of them. I'm sure they're going to try to get him at their spot that they're going to be picking at. You got the Jets. They need another corner in addition to Sauce Gardner. I think Minnesota needs another corner. So some teams out there that needs corners. He would be a really good one. And the last one is Michael Penix Jr. Obviously, Jaden Daniels didn't throw. Caleb didn't throw. But what he was able to do, those deep balls and that goal line fade to Roma Dunzy, it was off the charts, man. I think, and I'm going to throw this out here. If I'm a Falcons fan, right, let's say we don't successfully get into the Justin Fields sweepstakes and we don't land him, I'm taking Michael Penix Jr. if he's available at that 8 spot.
Yeah, I mean, he did his thing this season for sure. Obviously, came up just short. Here's a guy I wanted to talk about. Yeah, so speaking of Washington, the receiver Rome Odunze, 6'3", 212 pounds, but a 39-inch vertical at 6'3", 212 pounds. That's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, with the wingspan as well, that is a physical receiver that I think people should definitely cash in on. And then there was a running back that, who was that? The Tennessee guy? Nope. Washington is going to have a lot of draft picks.
Without a doubt.
Okay, one sec. Because the 40 times are impressive, but it's the explosiveness of the vertical.
44.
There's Wiggins.
Hard to wait 57. Baldwin, 60.
Okay, that's Xavier. Sorry, guys. Got the dead air right now.
Well, while Craig's looking that up, I will fill the air. I got to give a shout out to Xavier Worthy. Found it.
Yeah, the Louisville running back, Isaac Garindo. So these numbers, so 6 foot, 221 pounds. We haven't really heard about who's going to be that number one back. There's a bunch of good ones, but we're in a 4.33 at 6 foot, 221, a 41.5-inch vertical. That's nuts. And then nearly 11 feet in the broad jump, second best in the combine. That is explosion right there.
No doubt about it.
And probably before the combine, he was not getting a lot of attention, but that's going to put him way up.
No doubt about it. I mean, 100% agree. He's going to be one to watch. You say his name again, Craig?
That is Louisville's Isaac Garindo.
Isaac Garindo. So 4.33, as Craig said, he ran. So that is one to watch for. I think next for me, I got to give a shout out to Xavier Worthy. Set a new 40-yard dash record with a 4.21. Finished fourth all-time in his career at Texas with 2,755 yards. He was 6th in receptions with 197, 8th in the punt return yards at 564. Finished 2023 with 75 catches, 1,014 yards, and 5 touchdowns. I think my biggest question, Craig, is like you said, the 40s are really good. They're fun to see. Can it translate? Because we've seen John Ross, formerly of Washington, what he did, 4.22, ended up being out of the league within 5 to 6 years. Didn't have the career that we expected him to have. That's the biggest question with Xavier Worthy is he showed it on the field, and he showed it at the combine, the speed that he has and the big play ability that he has. But can that translate to the next level?
Yeah, it'd be a big question. I mean, obviously, we saw some of the teams salivating over those numbers, including Patrick Mahomes. And it is a dangerous fit because with that speed, it's not just his ability to beat the cornerback, get over the top, and haul in the big play. This is a guy that can take screens. He did it a ton at Texas. And just once he gets that one block, he is gone. And it was just obvious watching him run that. It looks different. Just completely looks different than everyone else that ran one.
No doubt.
How explosive he was out of the gates. And so I think I'm curious if how much he's even focused on his 40 form. Maybe he was a track guy back in the day, but that speed is something every team wants to add into their offense, 100%.
No doubt. And I think at that 32 spot for you guys, Craig, you guys got some interesting choices. If Worthy is still there, probably you'll have Brian Thomas there. And then the one I think that's underrated, I'm hoping you guys don't get, respectfully, that's Lad McConkey. I just think he fits you guys' mold so well, physical in the slot, what he's able to do, sure-handed catcher, how he moves. He just fits the Chiefs' norm so well. So it's going to be interesting to see. And if you guys get him, I think you guys are going to be trouble.
I could see that.
No doubt.
With Lad, the creativity they'd have, he played quarterback in high school. They probably have him on reverses. Like, they'd just be such a headache to add him into that.
Come on.
Yeah, that creativity, because he can get it done.
No doubt.
But, yeah, the big standout. This year's combine, the times and numbers people are putting up, it is insane. I've never seen anything like it. And it's going to make it very interesting in the draft. Because, how do you turn down a guy that is running under a 4.2? How do you turn down a DB that's like a top 5 40 time of all time?
Yeah.
There are some big decisions, and I think it shows, like, these college kids are putting in work. They deserve to be getting their dues in college, and then these NFL teams, they're able to get these guys to come in and make an immediate impact. That's just obvious. I think conventional wisdom back in the day was you have a 4-year rookie contract. If you don't go in the first round, you might not ever see the field. I think those days are over.
Oh, no doubt. You can go 5th, 6th. We seen Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, what he did, where he's at now playing in the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I 100% agree. It doesn't matter where you're drafted, Craig. It just what you're able to do with that opportunity.
Yep. But, yeah, so when is the draft? What's the date?
It should be April 28th through the 30th, but see if you can confirm that for me.
That's the one that we did.
April 25th through the 27th in Detroit. Very interesting. So we saw it in Kansas City, and then the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Maybe the NFL's putting it all in for Detroit. We'll see about that.
No doubt. It'll be a fun 3 days, and obviously the coverage will be by ESPN NFL Network. It's always a fun time, especially seeing who goes next and who'll be able to come and play on the big stage, man. But
what other quarterbacks impressed you? I saw a couple numbers like J.J. McCarthy from Michigan. He's going to be interesting where he goes, but I saw, and it stood out because the exact same thing I noticed watching him this season. He threw like the second fastest on the radar gun. It was like 64 miles per hour. And like, that is exactly what I saw. It's like, he's not the greatest quarterback, but those quick slant routes, he puts heat on it. So I think he's going to be an interesting guy where he goes, but there's a lot of interesting quarterbacks. I think that teams, they really got to take note on him.
He's actually being marked right now, Craig, to the Minnesota at 11.
Whew.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
It's a little high.
Yeah, that's what I said. Because it's like in the draft too, Craig, you don't want to reach. Like we've seen reaches before. I thought Zach Wilson, BYU, that was a reach. We've seen the result of that. No disrespect to him, but I think you want to make sure you get in the QB of the future, but you don't want to reach for it.
Yep, and then obviously last year, never seen that many quarterbacks go that early. So should be interesting if that trend continues. But I do think, he definitely has that velocity, and it's a great talent to have in the NFL. It's like you're back there. If you can make the quick decision and just hit the guy immediately when he's open rather than just waiting to read it, it's like I think that's the next step.
No doubt about it. I think can't wait to see where he goes, man. I think he should go somewhere, though, where he doesn't have to play the first year. Just let him develop, let him get that tutelage from a veteran quarterback back up a year or two, and I think he'd be fine. I think that's underrated part. Some of these quarterbacks not having to, come in day one, be the guy, but being able to kind of back up. We've seen the Packers, right, Craig, have a really good history of that, right? Brett Favre initially, him training and building up Aaron Rodgers, what he turned into in the league, future Hall of Famer, and then now we're seeing it. Got to see a little taste of it last year with Jordan Love, right? Him backing up Rodgers for so many years, getting trained. Now he's ready to go. Now they got the franchise guy.
Yep. And then obviously, quarterback's a position where not all of them compete in the combine and these other activities. So it is an opportunity for some of these other guys to show their stuff. But I think we're going to see that trend continue. Lots of quarterbacks taken early.
No doubt. Speaking of kind of our last topic to wrap this up, what are your thoughts on Russell Wilson officially being released? New league year starts March 13th, which will be next week, next Tuesday, I believe, or next Wednesday. What are your thoughts on them releasing officially Russell Wilson eating $85 million in dead cap space? It's a lot of money.
I don't know. He's an interesting guy. I think what he did with the Seahawks, really impressive. Established himself, put up some phenomenal seasons. I think last year, though, Broncos started out as a disaster. They had a chance. They completely choked down the stretch. I just don't know if he's the right guy to rally his teammates. It's like I feel like he kind of sits on an island.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So I don't know how good his relationship was with his teammates, but he seems to be kind of in his own world.
Seems that way. I don't know how many more opportunities he's going to have. I think a good fit for him potentially could be the Steelers. They really do need a quarterback, have a lot of good talent. Offensively, Jalen Warren, Najee Harris, obviously George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth. That would be an interesting pick to see him go to. But I just think the relationship just never worked out. You see it a lot of times, too, when a coach get fired, Craig. Sean Payton coming in, I don't think he really, loved him as his quarterback. I think we've seen that towards the kind of downstretch of the season. And I think Sean Payton, he just wants to, and in the Broncos organization, they want to start anew, right? It's been a disastrous last 2 seasons, and they want to go get the guy that they really want and bring him into the program and, eventually get back to where they were.
Yep. And so, this article points out sort of what I was speculating. He was, it says he contended with the Broncos that had threatened to bench him for the final 9 games if he didn't push back his $37 million injury guarantee in his contract.
Yep.
So there's definitely some beef from that aspect. And then another fans criticized him. They felt like he was too conservative. They, not politically on the football field. They just didn't see him as taking those risks, that next step that a Pro Bowl quarterback or someone getting paid his type of money should be making out there. Got to make the spectacular plays to win close games.
No doubt. And then for the Broncos, right, some of these deals not working out, the Randy Gregory's, obviously now the Russell Wilsons. What kind of timeline do you give them where they can get back to playing in the postseason and playing on the high stage and competing and contending, in the AFC, I won't say championships yet, but just in the AFC West and kind of giving Chiefs a little bit of a run? I think about 3 to 5.
Yeah, I'd put the over and a half at 3.5 years. You can either say it's going to take 3 or it's going to take longer. I don't see it happening in 2 years. I mean, they can definitely be a 500 team, but that's almost like overachieving. But for them to really be at the top of the AFC, they have got to just rebuild.
Yeah.
Have a clear strategy with your salary cap, get a young defense, focus on the key positions, the ones that eat up more salary. Got to be strategic with it, and got to get some leaders, but start with young talent and rebuild, and I think they can do it.
Then they can, and I think that starts to get in a couple good receivers in this draft. Obviously, Jerry Jeudy's going to want to get paid. Cortland Sutton's going to want to get paid. And then I think going young at quarterback, Craig, I think this year, you got to land on the quarterback, if you're the Broncos. Unless obviously you can bring in a veteran guy. But you got to land on the quarterback. They're going to be cheap for the first, 4 years before you have to give them that mega deal. And then by that time, your salary cap, situation should be a little bit better. And like you said, they're young defense. They got some pieces. Patrick Surtain is a really good one. Justin Simmons. So they just got to be able to land on. I think they got to really address linebacker. Got to get a couple more receivers and weapons offensively. Running back's another position. If they can get a guy in the draft, will be really good for them. And then getting young at quarterback.
Yep, it'll be an exciting year in Colorado.
No doubt about it. No
They
doubt
both
about it.
need to take that next step.
Yep, 100%. So that's our thoughts. Before we wrap, Craig, any big topics that you see you want to highlight on the NFL level before we conclude?
No, but I'm very excited about seeing one. It was a mediocre season overall. A lot of teams dealt with some big injuries. I think next year has to be better on the NFL front. And then in terms of
Really? I think it's mediocre.
I think last year was.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, during the regular season, we saw the Eagles
Plummet.
plummet. I mean, a lot of teams really struggled to kind of peak at the right time, and
Okay.
I just felt the play was a little, mediocre down the stretch. But I think this year will be better, and also on the college level, I want to see
Mhm.
some of these freshmen. Will they get some playing time? We'll see about that. Like a guy like Jeremy Hecklinski, how long until he's playing at Wake Forest?
Ooh, it's a good question.
So I don't know. I'm excited about this upcoming year. I think it is going to be better.
No doubt. Will be a lot of fun. Obviously, it's going to be a lot of hype going into the season, especially for college football. The NCAA game coming out, 12-team playoff, conference realignment. So we'll have all that here. And then we'll update you with the free agency frenzy here pretty soon, which will happen, I'm sure. And we'll have all of our biggest takeaways for teams landing some of these big-time veterans as well. And also shout out to Mike Evans, who got a 2-year extension with Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We did not talk about that, but 2 years, $52 million. So shout out to him. Finally able to get his money. Probably one of the more underrated receivers in probably the league, but he does it year in, year out, and just good to see him get his money.
Yeah, he's been stacking up those 1,000-yard seasons, and every time I'm like, man, he is over the hill. He comes out and puts up 200 yards. He still has it.
Still got it, man. So that's all we got for this week, guys. We'll be back Tuesday, next Tuesday for another, episode of Underrated and Overlooked. I'll be back later on today for the girls show. Keep it real, Najeh Wilkins, and Craig will be back tomorrow. Any guests for tomorrow yet?
Not yet. Gotta lock it down.
Got you. That's all we got. We'll see you guys soon. Peace.